What's up, basketball fans? Welcome to the Verdact Report. It's time to talk about the Toronto Raptors and their potential draft candidates. So if you're ready to watch today's video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you wish to hit the subscribe button, that would be very much appreciated. So with that being said, let's get right into today's video. So for today's video, I'm going to go through a handful of prospects I think the Raptors could draft. I'm also going to be giving you a dark horse of who I think could potentially end up on the Raptors roster by tomorrow night. So let's start with player number one here, and that is no other than Bilal Coulibaly. Now, Bilal has been linked to the Toronto Raptors. There's been a lot of chatter, in fact, that he has been made a promise by a team before the lottery. Now, there's a lot of speculations that team is either Oklahoma City Thunder, the Toronto Raptors, or the Utah Jazz as well. Now, Bilal obviously has been an intriguing prospect, given how quickly his stock has risen the last couple of months. You've never heard, outside of maybe the top two or three guys, you haven't heard about a prospect being talked about this much. By late January, I was scouting and I saw this guy. I thought, he would be nice for the Raptors if they had a second round pick. He was projected to go around late first round, early second round, and look where he is now. He's projected to go in the lottery. So Bilal Coulibaly is an 18-year-old kid. He's 6'8", 191 pounds. He's listed as a shooting guard. He's listed as a guard slash forward. I think he's more of fitted for the small forward, power forward position. He's also got an insane wingspan of 7'2". And quickly taking a look at his statistics before we talk about his pros and cons, you see that he's averaged 5 points. Now you're probably looking at the statistics. They don't necessarily jump out at you, and you're probably wondering, what is the excitement? What is the hype about him? But once we get past the statistics, we'll talk a little bit more about him. His field goal percentage is pretty decent. I will say his 45% three-point percentage is very deceiving. He's not that good of a three-point shooter at all. You see his field goal percentage is very nice, 53.2. He wasn't really used in Metropolitan's 92 in the offense that much. Obviously, Victor Wembanyama was there, but also some of the other guys were used a little bit more. Now you see there again, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks don't necessarily jump out at you. Now you're probably wondering, what is all the excitement about? Why has his stock been rising? Now, I think when we talk about Bilal Coulibaly, it's important to note that he is very raw. So if you expect him to come into the NBA and have an immediate impact, that is not going to be him. But some of the pros that make Bilal a very intriguing prospect is his defensive versatility. He's very strong on the defensive side, although obviously you could make an argument that he isn't playing against the strongest of competition. But he needs to get a little bit physically stronger, but his athleticism combined with his wingspan and size makes him an intriguing prospect. He's a really good defender. He can guard power forwards, small forwards, and at times shooting guards as well. So he's a tremendous defender, one-on-one defender. He's good in the post. He's got a lot of different variables that make him a very intriguing prospect, just besides his defense as well. Now, in terms of his offense, I do see a lot of comparisons of Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think those are kind of lazy comparisons, if we're being honest. He doesn't really have a go-to move. So Bilal is very raw offensively, but what has made him so intriguing is how quickly he has adapted and changed his game as improved as well. Now, some of the weaknesses when we talk about Bilal obviously being his offense is he doesn't really have a dribble move. He obviously needs to tighten the handle a little bit more. He also doesn't really have a go-to move on the offensive side. Often what you'll see him either get putback dunks, get offensive rebounds and putbacks, or you just see him drive straight to the basket, where I guess is where you're hearing the Giannis comparisons. Now, I don't think there's necessarily a clear comparison when you talk about Bilal. It's kind of lazy. Like I said, I know people comparing him to OG Anunoby, Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think there's different parts of him which you can compare to different guys. For example, when he is attacking the basket, he does a very good job of sidestepping guys, a Euro step. It's almost very similar to how you see Pascal Siakam and some of the different things he does offensively. You can definitely compare a bit of it anyways to Pascal Siakam. And of course, when you talk about defense, you have to talk about OG Anunoby. So I can see where the comparisons come from. It's going to be one of those things that a lot of Raptors fans may question as to why we're drafting him when we already have so many guys. I think his potential is insane. Now, like I said, he's not going to be someone that comes in and contributes right away. His floor is definitely a lot lower than some of the other players, but long-term, it's someone that's very intriguing. Players around the NBA, teams around the NBA, are always looking for these kind of athletic wings that can guard, that can do a lot of crazy things on defense, but also offenses work as well. So again, his shot isn't necessarily there. He's not a great three-point shooter. He doesn't have a jump shot. So you could definitely question, why would the Raptors draft him? They need more offense. They need shooters. But I think the Raptors are thinking long-term. When you hear Dan Tolzman talking about who the Raptors want to draft and how they look at different prospects, he's always stated best player available, but also someone that can impact you down the line. He's not looking for someone that can come in and immediately fix a lot of the problems the Raptors have. So that's why I can see the Raptors being attracted to Bilal. Now let's move on to prospect number 2 here. Now this is a player I think the Raptors should strongly consider at that 13th spot, though I could argue might be a little bit of a reach, and that is Ryan Rupert. Yes, that is how you pronounce his first name. Seems like I have been mispronouncing it, but Ryan is a 19-year-old kid, 6'6", 195 pounds, shooting guard, and he's got an insane wingspan of 7'2". Now I do want to say these heights are without shoes, so you could argue with shoes, he's 6'7". Same with Bilal as well. He could be 6'7" without shoes. But Ryan is a very intriguing prospect. Now, I do want to mention before we say he's very tall, he says he likes to play the shooting guard position. Now, taking a look at his statistics, you'll see that much like Bilal, he didn't have a very sexy, if you want to call it, statistical season with in the NBL and the New Zealand League. 6.6 points. Nothing really jumps across when you talk about rebounds, assists, steals, or blocks. The one thing I do want to mention, now you look at his three-point shot, 25% terrible, only on 2.5 attempts. Field goal percentage is downright terrible for someone his height. But when you take a look at the free throws, that is something to be optimistic about. One thing I want to mention is when you talk about poor three-point shooters or just shooters overall, they're normally very bad free throw shooters as well. So that gives you reasoning to believe that he's a much better shooter than his numbers have displayed. And also when you talk about European leagues, when a lot of these young players go there, their focus isn't to develop on some of these young players. Their focus is winning. So if that player could help them any which way, that's great. But their focus isn't necessarily like NCAA basketball, where they're focused on the development of guys and raising their stock in the draft. So that is one thing I do want to mention. But in terms of Rayan, what makes him super impressive is his defense. Now, I know, here we go again. You're thinking a defense-first guy. That is not exactly what we need, but we need to think long-term here. And we need to listen to what Dan Tolzman, Raptors scouting assistant GM, is telling us. You're looking at guys that can contribute down the road. You're not coming in and you're not drafting someone that can come in and maybe have an immediate impact, although you could make the argument that is exactly what the Raptors need. But Ryan is someone who's a great defender. You could argue he's an even more versatile defender than Bilal. When you take a look at some of his clips, he's guarding some of the fastest point guards full court. He's doing a great job. He's got very quick feet. And although size-wise, you can compare him to Bilal, he's different in the sense that he can guard point guards and shooting guards. He's much faster on his feet. He's not as strong as Bilal, so he's not going to be necessarily guarding power forwards. He's going to be guarding more point guards and shooting guards. So it gives you someone who's a great point of attack defender. He's also someone that has so many different variables. He reads the basketball IQ so highly. When you go and watch some of his clips, unfortunately, I can't put too many of these clips up. I don't want my video to, get strikes, but Ryan is someone that reads the ball around when the movement's happening. He fights through the screens. He's also someone that can intercept passes very well. He gets you a lot of steals with his wingspan, yes, but he's also someone, when their players are moving off ball, guys are doing cuts, he reads the ball very well, and he gets to those guys and intercepts a lot of passes. When you watch some of his clips, you can make the argument he intercepts passes much like Kawhi. Sometimes it's even the no-look interception where he gets, steals. So he's so talented on the defensive side, but there are also some question marks around his offense, which we need to talk about. Now, in terms of his offense, I do want to mention his shot actually looks very smooth. So again, contrary to Bilal, whose shot looks very stiff and not that great, if I'm being honest, but Ryan is a very smooth looking shot. He's hit jump shots. He can hit three-pointers. I know the numbers don't necessarily reflect that, but he's someone that has the potential to be a really good player offensively in the NBA. He's modeled his game after Mikal Bridges. And I think it would be amazing if he does reach that potential. I think he'll need time. He's going to come in and he'll be someone that can have an impact, obviously, on the defensive side right away. But also, I think his passing is super underrated. When you look at some of the passes he makes smart and right decisions with the passes. He's not going to have insanely flashy passes. He's going to make the right decision, but he also plays very unselfishly, and he has very high IQ. He's always doing a great job of finding his teammates. Even in transition, he moves the ball very well, and he's also great at cutting as well. So there's a lot of different pros when we talk about Ryan here. It's not just his defense. Yes, his shot isn't necessarily there. He shoots really well, but in terms of the other things he does besides just defense, he passes the ball really well. He moves without the ball really well, and he cuts to the basket. So, and he also makes really smart decisions on both ends of the courts as well. So I think if the Raptors, when we talk about different guys they can draft, he's going to be a great point of attack defender. He can pass, he can get steals, high IQ basketball player, and I think his shot isn't broken. is something that can be worked on. Again, I know the numbers are terrible for someone who's listed at 6'6", but I think he would be a great, great prospect for the Raptors if they do decide to select him. Now, let's end this video with a dark horse who I think the Raptors could potentially take. Not necessarily very high on him, but I think this is someone we've been hearing a lot of lately. And let's talk about this player here. Now, this dark horse candidate I am talking about is jalenHood-schifino. I've seen a lot of mock drafts. I've seen him, and there's been some sort of chatter, some rumors, not legitimate rumors. There's been some sort of chatter that he may go in the lottery. Now, jalenHood-schifino is a 20-year-old. He's got, again, his height is without shoes. He's listed at 6'4". With shoes, he's 6'6". He weighs around 215 pounds. He's a guard. He can play both the point guard and the shooting guard position. He's also got an amazing wingspan of 6 foot 10 inches. Now, quickly taking a look at his statistics, average 16.5 points, 4.1 rebounds, 3.7 assists, almost a steal a game. Free throws were decent, 77.6 for someone, like him. You expect a little bit better, but 33% from the three. Not a great three-point shooter. Overall, pretty bad shooting numbers-wise, percentages-wise, 41.7%. Not the greatest numbers. I do want to talk about him, though. I do want to talk about him. jalenHood-schifino, he's getting player comparisons to Spencer Dinwiddie. I don't necessarily see a lot of that. He's got a great mid-range game. What he does a lot in the pick and roll is take a few steps inside the three-point line, and he's amazing at hitting those jump shots, those mid-range, very well. So he can even stretch it out a little bit. Again, I know he's not a great three-point shooter, but if he takes a few steps and pick and rolls, steps right inside the three-point line, he's great at hitting those. He can also attack the basket as well. He's not the greatest of athletes, but he can dunk the ball as well. Now, I think the player comparison I really want to throw out there, and it may not be the one that a lot of Raptors fans may want to hear, is what pretty much people expected Jalen Suggs to be at the NBA level. So comparing Jalen 6'4", when you look at it, he does a lot of the things that people expected Jalen Suggs to do. He's actually a really good defender. jalenHood-schifino, that is. He's a really competitive player. He's good. Obviously, his size and wingspan allows him to guard shooting guards and point guards. He does a great, great job on defending them at the basket, on the perimeter, and pick and rolls. He just does a great job overall. He's a really good defender. He's a really good defender, so that gives the Raptors someone who can come in, obviously provide a lot more size at the point guard position, and also, you don't have to worry about him getting switched onto shooting guards because his size and wingspan allows him to guard most shooting guards as well. I also see offensively, if we're talking about him offensively, I do see a lot of DeMar DeRozan as well. Again, that mid-range game is amazing. Obviously, he does need to improve the three-point shot a lot. And he does tend to turn over the ball quite a bit, which might be a concern, but that is something he will work on. I will say about jalenHood-schifino, there are a lot of negatives to talk about when we talk about him. Turnovers obviously being the biggest, but also he gets sloppy with some of the passes, in particular in pick and rolls. He does get very sloppy. He can sometimes throw the pass a little bit near the legs. He needs to work on that a little bit. And again, I think with him is he's not a great three-point shooter. So someone like jalenHood-schifino, he's a really hard worker, so I can definitely see him improving his shot at the NBA level. But even when we talk about jalenHood-schifino on the on-ball or off-ball, that is going to be a big struggle for him, especially, for a team like the Toronto Raptors that already has a lot of ball handlers and Pascal Scotty. OG wants a bigger role. Gary can definitely, have the ball in his hands as well. And depending on what they do with Fred, I think the problem with jalenHood-schifino is if he does play the shooting guard position, he's not a great three-point shooter. So he has a hard time kind of playing a little bit off the ball. He needs the ball more in his hands to be the point guard, to be effective. So I think that is the big question mark around jalenHood-schifino. Again, I have other players in mind, I think, that could be higher than jalenHood-schifino. Obviously, you can talk about Kobe. We can talk about Kaysen. But again, these are just players I think the Raptors could potentially target. Now, I see this. Look, I can make videos on Kaysen. I can get you guys to agree, but one thing I never do on this channel is make videos just to be agreeable. I don't say things to necessarily I don't see things that you want to hear. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't make Kaysen Wallace videos because I really don't see the Raptors taking him. I really don't, guys. With all due respect, I just think there are a few factors we have to take into consideration when we talk about different guys, and that is floor, ceiling, and potential. So those are three things the Raptors obviously need to consider, and other variables as well. So again, I'm very curious to hear your thoughts. Make sure to leave your comments down below and your predictions of who you think the Toronto Raptors will draft. So again, leave your comments down below, and whoever predicts correctly will get a shout out in my next video. So let's do that. Even if there's multiple people writing Kaysen Wallace, I know Kobe Buffkin is a name I would love to have. Again, these are just players I think the Raptors should draft. Doesn't necessarily mean they will, but I particularly am very high on Ryan Rupert. I think the Raptors should draft him. I mean, you could even make the argument I'm higher on him than Bilal. I would like Bilal as well, but there's a lot of intriguing prospects. So let's see what happens. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, and that will be it for today's video, guys. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you guys have yourselves a great day.